entertaining story. Hello, I'm a talentless hack. Here I shamelessly follow the crowd and review stuff because everyone else on the internet has their own review show. Up first is Pokémon Adventures.
Why would I do this? Originally, I wanted to raise awareness of this series so that Viz would continue translating it. During December, I lost motivation due to obvious reasons. The second reason is I've been telling my friends that I would do this review. Pokémon was originally released in Japan during 1996. The first two games came out in two versions, red and green. When Pokémon came to North America, it mirrored its success in Japan, and the rest is history. Naturally, there were several licensed products, such as toys, clothing, and a musical. Yeah, there actually was a musical. We're probably never going to talk about this again.
One of the many licensed products was Pokémon Special.
The first 7 volumes were previously released in North America between 2000 and 2003. However, Viz opted to stop translating the volumes as they finished the second chapter, presumably due to lagging sales. This left us with a 2-page spread of Silver in Johto. What a cock tease. However, I believe that there are other factors to blame for the initial failure. The first was the release dates. Nearly all of the books were released with a 6-month gap between them. The second factor is the price. Seriously, $20.50 Canadian for a graphic novel back then? What the fuck are you smoking? The exchange didn't even equal that. And while we are on this subject of overpriced bullshit, can someone explain to me why you have to pay $22.95 on a half-finished strategy guide? You know, back when games were actually shipped complete, so were their strategy guides. This is especially jarring since the Platinum Strategy Guide was the same price, and that was about 500 pages longer. And while I'm calling people out, Nintendo of Canada, what are you doing? If I want an event Pokemon, why do I have to go down to the States or use PokeSav to get it? Why is some of the game's content locked if you're too incompetent to set up the proper events? Why is the game's content locked in the first place? And no, the ones on Wi-Fi don't count, unless I miss the following being distributed through Wi-Fi. If you want me to continue buying your crap and not move on to a cheaper hobby, get your shit together! Sorry about that, I lost control. That won't happen again. The only way to get it would be to either scour the internet to try and find it, or import it from Singapore, which is quite expensive. And not to mention the logo would be red.
Only in 2006 did they release the Best of Pokémon Adventures Red and Best of Pokémon Adventures Yellow, which can basically be described as 3 books worth of plot mashed into one, or in the case of the latter, 4. They became messy clusterfucks and nobody really cares.
Also in 2006, they brought over another Pokémon manga called Genji's Rescue Team, which is based off of the first Mystery Dungeon and was given out in Nintendo Power as individual chapters, and eventually released as a graphic novel. Apparently, these sold well enough and Viz brought over more Pokémon manga, including the manga adaptations of the movies, Pokémon Diamond and Pearl Adventure, and eventually they decided to reprint Pokémon Adventures. Now let's get on to the actual review.
For starters, we should talk about the terminology of the series. Individual chapters are called adventures, while story arcs are called chapters. This could be rather confusing, so please take a moment and let it soak in.
Unlike the previous versions, this is read from right to left. The best improvement for me, and my wallet, would have to be the price.
Finally, this is not an adaptation of the anime. That would be Toshihiro Ono's Electric Tale of Pikachu. The story is written by Hidenori Kusaka, whose name I probably just butchered, and for the first 10 volumes is drawn by Mado. Apparently she couldn't draw afterwards due to a hand injury. However, I would like to believe that there was a falling out because all she can draw is fucking chippies!
The Pokémon, on the other hand, are drawn nicely, and it has the bonus of Gyarados not giving you nightmares. The manga stars Red. He is the idiot hero who follows the character design of the main character from the original game, and he is on a mission to become...
all together now, to become the greatest trainer that has ever lived.
His first Pokémon was a Poliwag, which evolved into a Poliwhirl to save him from drowning by the time this story starts. He starts off cocky until he fails to capture Mew. He then goes to Professor Oak's for guidance. There is a misunderstanding that accidentally sets all of Professor Oak's Pokémon free, and the two of them get them back. This results in Professor Oak giving Red his Pokédex and his starter, Bulbasaur. The rival is Blue, and is based off of the rival in the games. His name, in the Japanese version, is Green. Of course, the heroes wouldn't be any good without any villains, and they have to deal with Team Rocket. And we aren't talking about the bumbling trio from the anime or the Electric Tale of Pikachu manga. Here, Team Rocket is a much more evil and sinister organization. Much like the games, Team Rocket steals Pokémon. They then conduct experiments on them. For example, they make a Gyarados go berserk and force Pokémon to evolve.
These were originally drawn in 1997, so you get some strange-looking Pokémon. Notably is Pikachu, who has changed quite a bit. But still, Pikachu. Pika motherfucking Chew. When will people learn? There were 100 more interesting Pokemon back when there were only 152 of them! Wait, what was that? Yes, you there, yeah, you. Oh, you're wondering why I said 152.
Number 0, missing no.
Anyways, there were plenty of more interesting Pokemon than Pikachu. Like Porygon. And remember,
it was this piece of shit and these 3 douchebags that caused the seizures, not Porygon.
Pikachu actually starts off rather mischievous in this. He causes problems until Red captures him. But even then, it isn't willing to become obedient overnight like Pikachu in the anime. Even after Red shields Pikachu from an attack, he is still willing to be mischievous a few pages later, and intentionally shocks his trainer. Unfortunately, by the time the next chapter starts, Pikachu is a Pika slave.
What a Pika shit.
I do have to admit that the manga does have its own problems, and it certainly isn't the greatest manga I have ever read.
Besides the chibi-ish characters, there are a few other problems. For the first chapter, the pacing is horrible. Thankfully, the pacing gets a bit better in the future. Next, attacks work on Pokemon that they shouldn't. For example, electric attacks work on ground types, and in Volume 2, a poison Pokemon is poisoned. Also, legendary Pokemon are really boring. They either one-shot everything or are captured off-screen. Except Mewtwo. He is fucking awesome.
Oh boy, then there's the violence.
On one hand, it's great, and it's nice seeing something that is generally family-friendly have decapitations. On the other, it's sort of disturbing.
But hey, this game is basically just cockfighting between 500 different creatures.
And fighting in general is rather violent, and not covered with cheery multicolored rodents wearing nice hats. The best part of this manga would have to be that they get right what the anime does wrong. The characters are developed and mature throughout their own arcs. Every character is a badass, especially the gay one and the kid with asthma. In fact, I'd love to see the anime have Ash beat Paul, win the Sinnoh League, and go on to the Winners' Cup and conclude. Then, in order for Nintendo to still have a 30-minute Pokémon commercial, they can make this into an anime, and hopefully it won't be screwed over with filler.
Throughout this book, what would have to be my favorite adventures would be the last two.
Red goes to Lavender Town and finds out about Pokémon Ghost. At first, he doesn't believe it, but soon finds out that Blue was also there and had been missing for 2 weeks. He decides to go into Lavender Tower, where he is confronted by
Zombie Pokémon.
In particular, a Psyduck that rots right in front of him. They find Blue, who is possessed by a ghast. After freeing Blue, they are attacked by an Arbok, which Blue's Charmeleon decapitates by cutting its head off. Hallelujah!
Hallelujah! In conclusion, I feel that this is worth a look because it can show what can be done with the Pokémon license. Thank you for your time, and I'll hopefully see you again. This has been a rather eye-opening experience about how much effort goes into a 10-minute video. Finally, I certainly wasn't going to finish the review without pointing this out. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Up next, Volume 2.